So this is my dream, to do an Agape Latte with Father Casey Beaumier. How cool is this? Yeah.
I would say it's North Dakota cool. Like really cold.
What is that?
It's like sick, like your generation would say.
Or dope. Or lit.
Or lighted in the past.
Lighted. That's right. That's right.
Right?
Oh, gosh. We know we're being videotaped, so we have to keep it between the lines, okay? I know, but it won't be boring. We promise you that. So we were thinking about doing an Agape Latte together and what that might look like. Scary. I can't see people in back here. And then we thought, how fun would it be to do the last Agape of the year and offer students some of our wisdom, a taste of our past and the lessons that we learned, so that maybe you don't have to learn them. So consider it a gift, I guess.
And I would say, if you're at a Jesuit school, you're not only enrolled in the university, but you're enrolled in the school of the heart. And perhaps maybe we would think of tonight's Agape as an opportunity to take a final exam of sorts in the school of the heart, which is a school of wisdom, right? To speak about what it is that the heart knows deeply based on experience, so that at the end of tonight, I think for both Karen and me, we hope that you feel that you get an A in the school of the heart based on kind of the passing on of some wisdom. So I think that's our mutual hope for our students that are here tonight.
And you can let us know at the end if we pass or fail. So anyway, I'm going to begin my first words of wisdom to each and every one of you, not just seniors, to each and every one of you. Don't get caught up in all the distractions and all the expectations that life holds, because they pull you away from what God wants for you. They pull you away from being the best version of yourself. Think about it. Expectations. Expectations say to us, it should be this way. I should be getting an A in that class. I should be graduating at the top of my class. I should be wearing a size 4. I should be having good friends. I should be in a relationship. I should be making that team. I should be getting that job. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. I should be doing this. Isn't that terrible? It's a terrible way to live. Think about distractions. What distracts us? So you guys have it tough because you're growing up in an age of social media. So you're always checking your phone and checking Instagram. Talk about a distraction. But what else distracts us? Worry, anxiety, depression, loss, relationships, failure, struggle. They beat us up pretty bad too. But guess what? We all have to fight those. And we all have to push back. And I think back when I graduated from Boston College back in 1982, I thought, I should graduate at the top of the class. I should get my perfect job. That would be in radio. I should love it. I didn't. I should get my next favorite job. That's going to be in television. I'm going to be on TV. I wasn't. Then I thought, I need to make more time for friends, to make new friends. But then guess what? A year after I graduated, one of my best friends said, hey, will you go out tonight and meet a group of us? And I said, oh, no, I'm busy, because I was busy making new friends. One of my best friends got killed in a car accident that night. Okay? Then you think, okay, how do you recover from that? You move on. You start to make new friends, and you fall into new relationships. For me, I fell into a relationship for 4 years. I spent 4 years in a relationship that didn't make me the best version of myself. And then finally I got out. I was 28 years old. And I'm looking at my life and I'm thinking, what am I doing? I just spent 4 years with can I say loser? We'll edit that out. And where's my job going and where's my career going? And so by the time I was 30, I woke up and I was a mess. I'm driving to work and I'm crying. And all I can think about are the expectations. All I could think about was all the things that I should have done or could have done or maybe would have done. And then I kept being haunted by all these distractions. So I'm crying, I'm driving my little Toyota Corolla because I should have had a better car, but I didn't. And I'm on the highway and I look over and I see this woman who looks to be my age. And she's driving a black Range Rover. And she has an old, like, English shepherd, like, in the front seat. And she has 2 little babies in the back seat, probably twins. And I look at her, and I continue to cry, and I think, she has everything I want. Everything I want. And look at me, I'm in this beat-up Toyota Corolla. So I get to work, and I'm working at Boston College at the time over in advancement, and a really dear friend of mine, Father Denis, comes in and he's like, hey, Karen, happy birthday, happy 30th. I burst into tears and he's like, what's wrong? And I just said, I'm just not where I should be. I'm not who I want to be. And I'm 30 years old and my whole life is passing in front of me. And I said, and I just drove to work and I saw this woman and she was in this black Range Rover and she had this big Irish English sheepdog and she had 2 beautiful kids in the back seat and she had everything that I wanted. I have none of it. And he looked at me and I'm sure he thought, you're crazy. And then he looked at me and sat back and he said, I'm worried. And I said, you're worried? You're worried about me? You're worried that I'll never get married? You're worried that I'll never be happy? He goes, Karen, I'm not worried about you. I'm worried about the Range Rover. And that stuck. He said, once you let go of all the material things, all the things that don't matter, the guy that you're going to marry and the person that's going to complete you is going to be right in front of you. Let it go and trust God. God has a plan. And you know what? It takes a hell of a lot of courage to trust God. And, to have the courage to say, He's got my back. I don't have to worry. I wish I had known that in my 20s. Because guess what, guys? Once that paradigm shift happened in my life, 18 months later, I meet my husband. I was so happy when I saw him at 5:30 Mass at St. Ignatius. He worked here at BC. We started dating. 2 months later, he asked me to marry him. I know my parents were like, we haven't even met him yet. And we just celebrated our 25th wedding anniversary. So God has a plan. God has a plan. So trust God. Get rid of all the distractions and the expectations, okay? That's the first promise you need to make. You're on.
And I would say for those who are looking for a future husband or wife, come to the Candlelight Mass Monday through Thursday, St. Joseph Chapel. Lots of romance there, candlelight, right? So that's the new generation, right? So I don't know about for you, but for me, my precious, right, my cordless, I love my phone. I bet you do too. With your instant grandparents and your Snapchatting conversations, Instagram. I was trying to be funny there, but it didn't work. But for me, with my email, I tend to fixate on my inbox, right? As life has gotten more and more busy for me, my inbox has become, I don't know, no me gusta, right? Like it really piles up, and I feel this pressure about the inbox. But I propose to you tonight that we actually ponder something different in our Gmail. I would suggest that you ponder with me the draft folder. Because I maintain that it's the draft folder that contains the world of virtues and vices, and where the rawness of your humanity lurks and longs to be studied and pondered in order to become a better person. Sometimes when I'm bored, I look in my draft folder, and it goes all the way back to 2012, when we first switched over to this kind of electronic correspondence at Boston College. And I will forward myself articles, and I'll leave them as drafts. And then There are other little drafts of things that I wanted to send in the heat of a moment, like this one. Dear Robert, what were you thinking? You really embarrassed me. And I didn't send it, right? Or, Mom, I tried to call and then I hung up because I was running out the door. And these are things that are just kind of incomplete. And as I look at them, I see moments of anger. I see moments of sadness and embarrassment, times where I felt so very humiliated or so very insecure, moments where I felt prideful and that somehow I got shortchanged, and then moments where I wanted to say something loving and I didn't. You know, it's worthy of pondering. Why is that? You know, sometimes when I think about my draft folder, I think that it's holy Christian prudence at work to say, don't send that because you're mad, and if you send it, then you've got buyer's remorse the next day. I wish I wouldn't have said that. Right? Everything is received according to the mode of the receiver, that sometimes things can be heard in ways that we never intended. And then sometimes I notice that there's great pride at work, that I don't want to appear vulnerable. I don't want to appear like I don't know what I'm doing. I don't want to appear needy or weak. And here's the thing. Prudence and pride sometimes are very, very tricky because one can appear to be the other. I might actually think that it's prudential that I'm proceeding in the way that I'm proceeding, but it actually might be that it's pride. I don't want to appear weak. I don't want to appear vulnerable. And I bet I'm not alone. I bet in the school of the heart that there are probably many of us who have draft folders filled with longings, some of them beautiful and vulnerable, some of them out of places that are very hurt and deep within us. And I maintain this. I love that folder. I love all of its contents because it's wisdom. Very important for us to ponder, why is it that I proceed the way that I do? Why is it that sometimes for me to say what I really feel is hard for me? Or why is it that I need to be recognized, and when I feel that I've been slighted, that hurts in such a way? Where's that coming from? So tonight, maybe give the inbox a rest, and maybe take a moment to ponder that little draft folder and to love it, because actually it contains more of you than you and I might realize. That's the second story.
Okay, I'm up. Okay, so my next story is about prayer. And I can tell you, with everything I know in my heart, prayer changes things. Think about it. Daily prayer puts us in contact, in connection with God each and every day, intentionally. Do you know, in your generation, the things that young people say that they fear most is that they won't ever be loved fully, unconditionally. And they fear being alone. Prayer changes that. When you're talking to God, you're never alone. I want to share with you a prayer that I have said every single day since October of 1994. God, help me help you. It was after the birth of my first daughter, McKenna. I actually graduated here in 2017. And I was so overwhelmed with happiness and gratitude at the gift of this baby that I just wanted to thank God, and I wanted to do something for God. So every day I would say, God, help me help you. And I was also in touch with Father Janine, who I just spoke about, and I said I would be frustrated, and I would say, I'm talking to God, and I want God to kind of tell me what he wants me to do. And he said, be patient. Well, the next thing you know, I'm pregnant with Maddie. They're a year apart. And I'm continuing to say, God, help me help you. God, help me help you. I have Maddie. And then, God, help me help you. And then I have Emma. God, help me help you. I think my husband was like, stop saying that prayer. And he said, don't you think there's a connection between you helping God and you actually having all these girls? And anyway, I kept saying the prayer. I'm telling you, when you turn your prayer to God, for God, it not only changes your life, it changes other people's lives. That prayer helped our family start Spread the Bread, and which you can learn about online. It's a grassroots bread spreading organization, again, born out of a prayer. The anti-bullying and the Misfit Sock came out of that prayer. I prayed, God, help me help you. When I was home with the girls, raising our 4 daughters and thinking about coming back to Boston College, in my mind saying, gosh, if I could come back to BC, I would love to work at the Church in the 21st Century Center. God, help me help you. Bingo, I got the job. And then my work here at the center, God, help me help you, has been all for God. Agape Latte, help me help you. Help us help you spread this. The programs that we do, the work that we do, the people that we meet. God, help me help you. Say that prayer. Make up your own prayer. Have your daily mantra. How many seconds does it take? 5 to say hello to God. Because when you ask God to help him, he will help you help him. I can tell you that. Most recently, I have an example of that happened last year. I happened to be at the Stop and Shop, which I go to often, go grocery shopping, and I was in the produce section, and I overheard 2 little kids, and they were talking. And one little kid says to the other little kid, my mother says that you shouldn't talk about God in school because it makes people feel uncomfortable. And I was like, what? And it reminded me of the days when my kids were in elementary school, and they basically said, we can't celebrate birthdays anymore. There's no more cupcakes, no more sugar, no more whatever. And I thought, oh my goodness, what have we come to? I couldn't believe these kids had said that. And it stuck with me. And I kept praying the prayer to God, God, help me help you. We got to figure this out. We can't have kids not talking about God in school. So one morning, it was a Sunday morning, my husband went to go play golf, and which he doesn't do enough. And not that I want him to leave me, but so I was all alone, which I'm never alone. And I started to write this story. And the story was about a little girl who's inspired to draw like Picasso after she goes to a visit to the art museum. And she runs back home and she thinks, I want to draw something beyond spectacular. What could that be? And then she decides it's God. And so she goes into her bedroom and she starts to draw God. And she draws a picture of a beautiful sun. And it's so bright, her cheeks are throbbing. And then she goes into school and she says to her friends, look, I drew God. And they're looking at her like she's crazy. You drew a sun. She goes back home. She decides she's going to draw bread because her mother bakes bread. And bread reminds her of God. Sure enough, she takes the picture back. Her friends think she's nuts again because it's a picture of a loaf of bread, not God. So she goes back home. She prays to God, help me, help them see you. And she decides to draw a picture of a heart because God is love. So God is light, God is bread, God is love. And she goes back to school, and now everyone learns about her God drawings, and they're like, Emma, God's not a Valentine, and you're crazy. So she goes back home, And she prays again to God. And she just said, please help me. Please help me. Let them see you. And sure enough, the next morning she wakes up and she decides she doesn't care what anyone thinks. She knew she drew God. God knew she drew God, maybe Picasso too. And she goes back into school, expecting everyone to be making fun of her. And she goes back in, and every kid in the school is drawing God, and every picture is different. So that's the story. I wrote it on a Sunday morning. That was God working. We got it, sent it out to a publisher, and now it's being published in October. Trust me. I dabble in children's books. It takes me so long to write them. That was the answer to a prayer. And now, hopefully, the book will come out, and it will get lots more kids talking and drawing about God. That was a prayer answered, because prayer changes things. Don't underestimate it, guys. Life is hard. You got a lot going on, and you've got so many gifts. Ask God to help. Ask God to help share. We're all in this together, and we believe in the power of you. Believe in the power of God.
Well, I love being able to share this right after what Karen said, because I think one of the things that's so lovable about Karen is that she's a person of tremendous imagination and vision and desire and dream. So I think part of the reason why we're such good friends is that we're people who envision. And I don't know about you, but I imagine that BC attracts people like this who have great vision, great desire. And I think people who have great vision and great desire, great dreams, great possibility within them, they're great targets for the bad spirit to attack and to question, why are you thinking this? Or why are you imagining that? I don't know about you, but I act upon probably 0.05 of 1% of the things that go on in my imagination. I mean, I think about all sorts of things that might happen, right? I bet I'm not alone, right? So, like when I walk into, I love high school. Before I came to BC, I used to teach high school. When I walk into a high school, I'm like, show me the English department. Let me see the campus ministry. If I were here, I would do this. If I were here, I would do that. I'd love to see what they do with these things. When I go into a church, I imagine what I would do if I was stationed there. I wonder what they do for young adult Catholics. I wonder what they do for the families. I wonder what they have for religious ed. Is there a school? I wonder what they have for music. I love to run. I'm not a good runner anymore, but I used to run every day at the Chestnut Hill Reservoir like a hamster, multiple times around it, just over and over. And sometimes when I would run, I have all sorts of plans about the Chestnut Hill Reservoir. Those two little water buildings from the waterworks, I want one to be a coffee shop. The other one, I want it to be an ice cream shop. And I want to put some benches here with some lights. I've got ideas about things that would go on around the Chestnut Hill Reservoir. And as I'm running, that bad spirit loves to attack. What are you doing? You don't work in a high school. You don't even work at this church. You don't work for Parks and Recreation for the city of Brighton. What a dumb ice cream shop. Who's going to go to the coffee shop? For stupid. And then sure enough, yeah, it is stupid. It is a dumb idea. Nobody would go there, except for BC kids. But here's what I receive in my prayer. And I offer it to you, especially for seniors, because you're cramming for the final at BC. In my prayer, I received this truth that you should never, ever, ever dispose of any vision, any dream, or any desire within your heart. Never. You should never, ever dispose of any dream or any vision or any desire within your heart. Now hear this, because this part is very important. That doesn't mean that every vision, every dream, every desire within you must become incarnate, because we Christians believe that the Father decides what becomes enfleshed. That's what Jesus is about. Jesus is the enfleshment of the desire of God for our world. But the thing is this: every person has been entrusted with dreams and visions and desires that are planted by God in you and me out of love. It's as if God were showing you what on earth as it is in heaven could be for the realm of this creation that you and I interact in. And that to hold that propels you and animates you and me to do what we can do enfleshed in a beautiful way. The bad spirit always wants to attack that and to say that you have no right to imagine this. You have no right to fancy that. You're too young. You're too old. Others are better than you. You have a sketchy past. People wouldn't believe you. They think that you're crazy. Someone else will do it. It's too late. It's not going to work. I mean, we recognize whether a tree is good by the fruit it bears. And when you and I listen to that devil, and our dreams and our visions and our desires become puny, well, look at what happens. You see, we're not in charge of what needs to become enfleshed. That's not our job. Our job is to carry the vision, to love the dreams, to feed off of the desires. And that carrying of dreams and visions and desires is what propels you to get out of bed in the morning and to do what you can do today. And it brings joy to what we do. So whether those waterworks buildings become ice cream shops or coffee shops, I mean, not my job. But I think that's a pretty cool vision. And as I run a little bit faster because of that vision. When I start a new semester, and I hope you do this too, I hope you have great visions and desires and dreams for each of the classes. When you begin a relationship, I hope you have great dreams and visions and desires for that relationship. When you start a new job, I hope you have great dreams and visions and desires for that new job. And then when you encounter the limits of what everything human is, which is limited, I hope that you never, ever dispose of the dreams and visions and desires, that you hold them not to pretend that reality isn't real, but to allow that intimacy of God to propel you to do what you can do. And I believe this, that if every person actually did that, if every person held all the dreams and visions and desires that she or he has been entrusted with, I think on earth as it is in heaven would be right in front of us. Absolutely. And I think that's what this place is supposed to be about. And I think if we did that, more of the time than we don't, it would be magnificent. So I think Agape Latte is like that. I think that's what we do here in Hillside Cafe from this great imagination. And I think that's what draws you tonight in the midst of a very pressured moment of the semester. For seniors, a moment of great anticipation, a moment of unknown, but one that propels you to continue every day to pursue something beyond what eye has seen and what ear has heard. That's extraordinary, and it's worthy of our lives.